Could you be sabotaging your expensive photo trips without even realizing it? After reviewing over 100 submitted photos, I keep seeing the same costly mistakes photographers make that keep them from turning shots into award winners. So in this video, I'm going to roast submitted photos, breaking down exactly what's wrong and how to easily fix it to guarantee epic results from your next adventure. So let's jump on to the first question submitted by Eric. So for this image, the behavior is very interesting. The decisive moment of the catch with the long tail and the open bill and the eye contacts. So those are very nice. However, there is one major problem, and that problem, actually there are two. So the first problem is the background. So during this time, which is like midday, way after sunrise, the light is pretty harsh, so pretty high up. So that causes these areas to catch on the light, which is really bright, and it steals the attention from the action. And then secondly, because of the harsh light, it also casts shadows in the background. So the background becomes really dark, and then some of the part is really bright. So dark and bright is a very strong peripheral pull that takes away the attention. So this background with all these distracting elements is very tough to handle. And then because of the harsh light, it also caused this part to be almost having blown out highlight. And for judging, whenever we see something like this, right, if you zoom in, right, there is really no textures, no feather details in this part and some of this part, and also in right here. That's usually a no-go for most of the judges, even this part as well, because that shows the judges that the metering, the exposure of the photo is not correct, right? So that becomes very tough. So that happened to me a lot when I first began photography, which is to strive to capture the moment, right? This amazing behavior, and I capture it. And I got really frustrated when the photo were not getting anywhere. And the main reason is because the viewers or the judges, they easily got distracted by the distraction of the image. So for example, in this one, a big trick, if you zoom out of the image and you kind of see that this part and these parts are really bright, and then these parts are really dark, and then also it casts a shadow in here. Nothing much you can do in here except to try to go out in the field more in early morning and late evening, and also make sure that you look at the angle of the light. So for example, in this image, the light seems to be coming more from the left side instead of right behind you. So it casts the shadow on the right hand side, right? So that is also a reflection of not having a good use of the light. So that is another problem. So in terms of how to fix this kind of image, it becomes very difficult because of all the distractions. And here, if you really want it, I would try to crop it tighter to avoid this part. So for example, like this, you just do a really big crop, something like that, and at least it helps a little bit. Next is try to see if you can recover any of this blown out highlight. So the idea is just to darken the image a little bit, like just go a little bit darker and then lower some of the highlights and see if you can bring some of this. But right here, it seems to be completely blown out. That's very tough. So overall, the behavior is very good. But in order for the behavior to move people, you need to be aware of all these distractions and also the light. Yeah, I hope that helps, Eric. So let's move to the next one. So the next photo came from Mauricio. So his challenge is, I have a full-time job and I don't have time to find wild animals. So that is the problem of most of the photographers. We always have a lot of engagements. And for me, for my first 10 years of wildlife and bird photography, I had a full-time job, 9 to 5, sometimes overtime. So it is difficult. So that's why I stress on making the best use of our time and try to do a lot of research before you even go, because we just can't compete with the pros who have a lot of time in the field. But that is not the end of the world, because even I was able to get a lot of awards and recognition. Even during those limited time, I only had 3 weeks of vacation in a year. So for this photo, there's a squirrel looking into the reflection. So this kind of photo always bring attention to the judges because of the reflection, right? Because we humans, we can always relate to us looking in the mirror, right? So this kind of image always have like a bonus point. So good job, Mauricio. So what is the problem of this photo? So if you look into this one, and actually this is a very good example of how many times when I'm judging a photo contest, there's a lot of near miss. Like the photographers might not know. A little bit of the small mistakes could actually ruin the chance of the photo. So in this one, if you look at the photo, I zoom out again and then see like which part of the image is the brightest or with the highest contrast so that it brings the eyes of the viewers away from this. So in this one, I would say that the reflection is very nice, but this part, and also this reflection is very bright. And then we got distracted. Like, what the heck is this, right? Especially when it's on the edge, right? People pay a lot of attention to the edge here. And then another small issue is like this part right here, this rock. Sometimes when a rock look like this kind of pattern and also is a little bit brighter and a little bit different in textures, and the cut off of the image is a little bit strange, right? It kind of cut off near the bottom part of the squirrel with the tail. So this part with the brighter area and then these textures would also bring people's attention away. So one of the things that you can improve on this photo, sometimes it's the small improvement can be huge, right? So what I would say is I would change the composition by cropping it a little bit tighter on the right hand side so that you avoided this part. So just from this, it's already a lot better. I would go ahead to crop even more. All you want to show to the viewers is that the squirrel is climbing down, right? But then you don't really need to show these textures. It's not really helping the story. So I would actually go in and crop it like this so that it's almost like a perfect reflection right here. Some of the judges might not like that this is right in the middle of it. So what you can do is you can either put it here so that it's a little bit off center, or you can crop it just a little bit closer to here so that it shows the squirrel is going into this, and also this part is pretty bright. So another way to reduce the distractions on here, maybe we just allow this part to be right here. So now after this cropping, if we look into this image, that has a lot of reduction on the distraction. However, if you look more carefully, like this part is still pretty bright, right? So this part is actually quite bright. So I might just use a little brush and then just kind of darken this just a tiny little bit, and then maybe like the overall image I would just go a little bit darker so that the background is also less distracting, and that would be my idea. A lot of the times it's just like this tiny little bit of composition that makes or breaks an image. So I hope that helps. So next one we have Joe. His challenge is finding my unique editing style. I like images to look natural, so I don't like to over edit, but then I feel like my images don't stand out. So that is also one of the typical questions that people have. What it means to be natural, what it means by over editing. Let's take a look at Joe's photo. So Joe right here has a very nice photo, a puma against a golden background with very nice foreground blur, so it's mysterious. This image is really good. Again, if you look at the zoom out photo, and the reason why I always talk about the zoom out one is when we are judging. As a judge, we only look at the thumbnails first, right? So if the thumbnail has some major issues, the image might not advance to the next round. So if you look into this one, right, in full frame is very good, right? But when you zoom out, the darker area of the image actually really stand out. So for example, this part right here, and this part right here, and also this part right there. These are okay, these are not too bad, and also getting a clean shot of puma is not easy. So one thing is you can kind of open up a little bit of the black area. But then what you can also do is just to go for a more aggressive creative composition. If you look into this image right here, the puma is coming out from the right hand side to here. So this part of the image is not really contributing a lot to the image. And then this part is a little bit distracting. This foreground blur is very nice. So I want people to see this part more. So I wonder if you have more space in the bottom to show off the technique, because most of the photographers would not be able to get this kind of foreground blur in this situation. And then since you already have the golden glow in here, you don't really need this part. What we're talking about is guiding the judges what to look at. So if you put it into like a tighter frame like this, so you can avoid this darker part. So this one is a very clear message to the judges that, hey, like this is a foreground blur. So if you have more, that would be even nicer. And then here is the golden glow. This part is just like a little bit of space on here. So the image composition becomes very nice. Remember the first image I talked about the overblown highlight. So for cats, especially for big cats like the pumas and lions and leopards, the part below the snout, near the mouth and those, the color is usually white and it catches on the light very easily. And because of that, it becomes very easy to have a blown out highlight again. So if you zoom in here, this part loses a lot of the details. One thing is to see if your image in the raw file, you can reduce the highlights to see if you can recover any of the textures in here. And if not, then it can be one of the things. But right now, the overall image looks nice, but I just wanted to let you know, sometimes when you have two images in a contest fighting for the final award, sometimes it's actually these little things that can make a difference. I've seen a lot of the judges, it's like their pet peeves is checking into this one and say, oh, okay, the photographer doesn't master the exposure and the metering. So no, something like that. So hope that helps. So next we have Ross. His challenge is my biggest struggle is me. So it actually is quite common to have this kind of struggle, whether we are good enough, what do we need to do? And I've been trying to get advice from many people before, but most of the people, they don't want to upset you and they don't want to tell you. And that's why I try to have this kind of review so that it's like a, a safe place. So anyway, so let's take a look at Ross' photo. So this one, very good. The strike is catching an insect and then good eye contact. The catch light is actually very important for bird photography. So this spot is good. And the exposure is excellent. The whites are not blown out. So this is a decent image. But do you guys see what is the main problem of this one? Right? So there are two main issues, right? So that could cause you to miss a chance of winning a contest actually. And I have seen it quite a lot of times. People submit photos like that to a contest. So number one, again, we zoom out and what catches your attention, if you can tell me. So the image is the nice blue and then the bird and boom, there is something right here. So that needs to be gone, Ross. You got to change the composition because in contest, you're not allowed to clone it away. So that is the one thing that needs to go unless it helps the story. And I don't see that this part helps the story. I don't even know what that is. Maybe it's a yellow leaves or something. Second thing is also these branches right here is also not helping, right? So what you would do is, since the bird is looking into this side, I would try to bring this one tighter like this, and then maybe something like even lower in here, and then this part gone. And then I would try to even get it tighter. I don't really like this one, but you can remove it, and so nothing you can do. And here, this one also is a little bit distracting. So if you do it like this, yeah, it's getting really tough because it's getting close. So we might as well just include this one. But you know that this one is not really helping the composition much. The distraction is a lot gone. But then one thing is these three little branches can still cost you like a potential winning opportunity. Unfortunately, the tail is pretty long, so you can't really crop them out. This part, the branches are very nice. Just by adjusting the composition a little bit, it can really help to reduce the peripheral pull. And just by reducing the peripheral pull, you help the judges to look more into the image. Now, of course, there are so many little things that I haven't had time to talk to you about, which can really improve the photos. Another thing is about the noise. So if you zoom it in more in here, you can see that the image has this grainy noise, and even on the body as well. A lot of the time when we pick photos, we are thinking about the winning photos have to be in some magazine printing or exhibits. And when the photo is printed like that, it will become really bad. And the problem is that as a judge, we can't just ask the photographer, say, hey, you're going to win this award, but it's so noisy. Can you clean it up? We can't do it. If there is another photo that is not as good as this one, but the quality is much better, we actually might have to pick the other one. So that is that. In terms of the light angle and everything, this one is well done. This part is a little bit in the shadow. Again, this is not ideal. What the judges are looking at is where the sun is actually. As you can see, the horizon is right here, the sun is right here. So it's a little bit higher up. So that's why it casts some shadow. The shadow is causing some noise and those. So in order to win an award or getting published and those, every single detail is important. And if you miss any one of those, that could cause you print sales and those kind of stuff. So I hope that helps. If you want to submit your photos for the next round of review, Make sure to join my email list below so I can send you the link when it's open again. One of the most important things to increase the chance of winning a photo contest is to avoid the so-called peripheral pull. Make sure to check out this video here to see what I mean.